The needle pierced baby Isabella's arm. Dr. Veronica Ashford watched the 4-month-old scream in agony and smiled. She had waited 5 years for this moment. 5 years of loving a man who never looked at her. 5 years of watching other women take what should have been hers. Now that Black Maid from the South Side thought she could steal Dominic Romano's heart just by making his twins stop crying. Veronica placed the sedative bottle in Maya's drawer and walked out. She would destroy that woman. She would watch her burn, and Dominic would finally see who truly loved him. If you want to know how a poor black maid from the South Side of Chicago brought down a doctor, survived her abusive ex-husband, and won the heart of the most dangerous mafia boss in the city, hit that subscribe button right now and stay with me until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story travels. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of what happens next. 3 weeks before Veronica Ashford committed the unthinkable. Maya Jenkins stood at the iron gates of the Romano mansion, with her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She was 27 years old. She had $17 in her bank account, and she was about to walk into the home of the most dangerous man in Chicago. The security guard looked at her cleaning supplies and then at her face. His eyes lingered on her dark skin a moment too long. She was used to that look. She had been getting it her whole life. He didn't smile. He didn't welcome her. He just pressed a button and the gate swung open. Maya took a deep breath and stepped forward. She had been sent by the cleaning agency to replace the 6th maid who had quit in the past 4 months. 6 maids. All of them gone. All of them too terrified to stay in this house for more than a few weeks. But Maya didn't have the luxury of being terrified. She had a $50,000 debt hanging over her head. She had an ex-husband who had promised to kill her if she didn't pay it. And 3 days ago she had found a dead rat nailed to her apartment door with a note that said she had 2 weeks left. So she walked through those gates and she didn't look back. The first thing she heard was the crying. It cut through the air like a knife. 2 babies screaming at the top of their lungs. The sound echoed off the marble walls and filled every corner of the massive estate. Maya stopped walking. Her hand flew to her chest. That sound. Dear God, that sound. It was the kind of crying that reached down into your soul and ripped out pieces of it. The kind that made you want to run toward it and gather whatever child was making that noise and hold them until they stopped. Maya's fingers moved to the scar on her left arm without her even realizing it. A long, jagged line that ran from her wrist to her elbow. The night Marcus gave her that scar, she had been 6 months pregnant. No. She couldn't think about that now. She forced her feet to keep moving. Harold the butler met her at the front door. He was 55 years old, with silver hair and kind eyes that had seen too much. "You must be the new girl from the agency," he said. "Yes, sir. Maya Jenkins." Harold studied her face for a moment. Something in his expression softened. "How much did they tell you about this position?" "They said you needed a maid. They said the pay was good." "Did they tell you about the babies?" As if on cue, the screaming upstairs grew louder. Maya flinched. "No, sir. They didn't mention any babies." Harold sighed heavily. "Of course they didn't. That's why we can't keep anyone." He started walking, and Maya followed him through the mansion. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, paintings that probably cost more than her entire life. "Mr. Romano has twin daughters," Harold explained as they walked. "Isabella and Sophia. They're 4 months old. Their mother died giving birth to them." Maya's heart clenched. "That's terrible." "It gets worse. The babies haven't stopped crying since they were born. Not for more than a few minutes at a time. 4 months of constant screaming. The doctors can't figure out what's wrong. Mr. Romano has spent a fortune trying to find answers." They stopped at the bottom of a grand staircase. The crying was so loud now that Maya could feel it vibrating in her bones. "The last maid lasted 6 days," Harold said quietly. "The one before her lasted 3. I'm telling you this not to scare you away, but because I want you to know what you're walking into. If you want to leave right now, I won't blame you." Maya thought about the dead rat on her door. She thought about the note. 2 weeks. "I'm not leaving," she said. Harold nodded slowly. There was something like respect in his eyes. "Mr. Romano wants to meet all new staff personally. He's in his study. I should warn you, he hasn't slept more than 2 hours a night in 4 months. He's not himself." "What do you mean?" Harold hesitated. "Just don't make any sudden movements. And whatever you do, don't lie to him. He can always tell when someone is lying." He led her to a heavy wooden door and knocked twice. "Enter," a voice called from inside. It was deep, rough, exhausted. Harold opened the door and stepped aside. Maya walked in. Dominic Romano was standing by the window with his back to her. He was tall, broad-shouldered. Even from behind, she could see the power in him, the danger, but she could also see the wrinkles in his expensive suit. The way his shoulders slumped like he was carrying something too heavy to bear. When he turned around, Maya had to stop herself from gasping. This was supposed to be the most feared man in Chicago, the head of the Romano crime family, a man who had killed people with his bare hands. But the man standing in front of her looked like a ghost. Dark circles carved deep hollows under his eyes. His jaw was covered in days of stubble. His hands were trembling slightly. And his eyes? His eyes were the eyes of a man who had given up hope. "You're the new maid," he said. His voice was flat, empty. "Yes, sir." "The agency sent you." "Yes, sir." "Do you know who I am? What my family does?" Maya hesitated for just a second. "I know enough, sir." "And you still came." "I need the job." Dominic stared at her. His eyes were sharp despite his exhaustion. She felt like he was looking straight through her skin and into her soul. "The last 6 maids ran away," he said. "One of them didn't even make it through her first day. She heard my daughters crying and she ran out the front door and never came back." Maya said nothing. "What makes you different? Why should I believe you'll stay?" Maya thought about all the things she could say, all the lies she could tell to make herself sound brave or noble or dedicated. But Harold had warned her, "Don't lie to him." So she told the truth. "Because I don't have anywhere else to go, sir. If I leave here, I'm dead. So I guess you're stuck with me." Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. He nodded once. "Harold will show you to your quarters. You start immediately." He turned back to the window. The meeting was over. Maya had been dismissed. For the next 3 weeks, Maya worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. She scrubbed floors until her knees bled. She polished silver until her fingers cramped. She cleaned windows and dusted shelves and washed dishes and did everything she was told without a single complaint. And every single day, she listened to those babies cry. Isabella and Sophia Romano. 4 months old. Identical twins with dark hair and blue eyes. They were beautiful. They were healthy. And they never stopped screaming. Maya watched the parade of experts come and go. Pediatricians in expensive suits. Neurologists with fancy equipment. Sleep specialists who charged $500 an hour. They all examined the babies. They all ran their tests. They all shook their heads and told Dominic Romano that there was nothing physically wrong with his daughters. But still, the babies cried. Maya also watched Dr. Veronica Ashford. She came to the mansion twice a week for what she called routine checkups. She was 34 years old. Blonde hair, perfect makeup, designer clothes. She was beautiful in the way that expensive things are beautiful. Cold and polished and untouchable. But Maya noticed things. She noticed the way Veronica's hand lingered on Dominic's arm a moment too long when she spoke to him. She noticed the way Veronica's voice dropped to a purr whenever he was in the room. She noticed the way Veronica's eyes followed him everywhere he went. And she noticed the way Veronica looked at her. It happened on Maya's 5th day at the mansion. She was mopping the hallway outside the nursery when Veronica came up the stairs. Their eyes met. The hatred in Veronica's gaze was so intense that Maya actually took a step backward. It was like looking into the eyes of a snake right before it strikes. "You're new," Veronica said. Her voice was ice. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Maya, the new maid." Veronica looked her up and down slowly, taking in her dark skin, her worn uniform, her calloused hands. "How long do you think you'll last?" Maya didn't know how to answer that. "I'm sorry." The other maids, they all ran away eventually. The crying drove them mad. Veronica smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I give you a week." She walked past Maya without another word and disappeared into the nursery. Maya stood in the hallway with her mop and tried to understand what had just happened. Why would a doctor hate a maid she had never even met before? It didn't make sense. But Maya had learned a long time ago that some things in life didn't need to make sense to be dangerous. She went back to mopping and tried to forget about the cold hatred in Veronica's eyes. 2 weeks later, everything changed. It was a Monday afternoon. The babies had been crying for 7 hours straight, 7 hours of non-stop screaming that made everyone in the mansion feel like they were losing their minds. Dominic had locked himself in his study. Harold was pacing the hallways. Even the security guards outside looked like they wanted to run away and never come back. Maya was assigned to clean the nursery. She pushed her cleaning cart down the second-floor corridor. The crying was so loud up here that she could feel it vibrating in her teeth. She stopped in front of the door with the pale pink paint and the silver stars. She took a deep breath. Then she opened the door and walked in. The nursery was beautiful. Expensive furniture, soft lighting, 2 cribs side by side near the window, toys everywhere that had never been played with because the babies never stopped crying long enough to notice them. Maya started cleaning. She wiped down the changing table. She dusted the dresser. She tried to ignore the screaming that was drilling into her skull. Then she saw it. A glass perfume bottle sitting on a high shelf. It must have belonged to the baby's mother, to Serena Romano, who had died bringing these 2 little girls into the world. Maya reached up to dust around it. Her elbow bumped the bottle. It fell. It shattered on the floor with a crash that seemed to echo through the entire mansion. "No, no, no," Maya whispered, dropping to her knees to gather the broken pieces. The smell of roses filled the air. Serena's perfume. The only thing left of the baby's mother. And Maya had just destroyed it. She heard footsteps pounding up the stairs. Heavy, fast, angry. The door burst open, and Dominic Romano stormed into the room. He was holding Isabella in his arms. The baby's face was purple from crying. Tears streamed down her tiny cheeks. Her screams were so loud and so desperate that Maya felt her own eyes filling with tears. Behind Dominic, Harold rushed in holding Sophia. She was screaming just as loud as her sister. Dominic saw the broken glass on the floor. He saw the spilled perfume. And his face twisted with a rage so intense that Maya thought he might kill her right there. "What did you do?" he shouted. "That was Serena's. That was all I had left of her." Maya opened her mouth to apologize, to beg for forgiveness, to explain that it was an accident. But the words wouldn't come, because she wasn't looking at Dominic anymore. She was looking at Isabella. At this tiny, screaming baby, whose face was purple and whose voice was hoarse and who was clearly in so much pain that she couldn't stop crying. And something inside Maya cracked wide open. She thought about Isaiah, her son. The baby boy she had been carrying when Marcus beat her so badly that she lost him. The child she had been planning to hold and rock and sing to. The little boy she had already bought a blue blanket for, and a stuffed elephant that played lullabies. She thought about the hospital room where the doctor told her that her baby was gone. She thought about the blood on the bathroom floor. She thought about the tiny grave in the cemetery where she still left flowers every Sunday. She thought about all the lullabies she had practiced that she never got to sing. And she looked at Isabella, this motherless baby who had been crying for 4 months straight, and she understood. This baby wasn't sick. She wasn't broken. She was grieving. She was crying for a mother who would never come. She was crying because something was missing. Something essential. Something that no amount of money or doctors or specialists could ever replace. Maya reached out her arms. "Give her to me," she said. Dominic froze. "What?" "The baby. Please. Give her to me." "Are you insane? You just broke my wife's perfume, and now you want me to hand you my daughter?" Maya didn't back down. She couldn't explain what she was feeling. She couldn't put it into words. She just knew with a certainty that went deeper than logic that she needed to hold this baby. "Please," she whispered. "Just for a moment. Please." Maybe it was the desperation in her voice. Maybe it was the tears streaming down her face. Maybe Dominic was just so exhausted that he would have tried anything at that point. He handed Isabella to Maya, and the world stopped. Isabella's screaming cut off mid-cry, just like that. Like someone had flipped a switch inside her. The baby's red swollen eyes opened wide. She stared at Maya's face with an intensity that was almost unsettling. Her tiny hands reached up and grabbed the front of Maya's uniform, and she went completely silent. In Harold's arms, Sophia stopped crying too. She turned her head toward her sister, toward the strange woman who was holding her. The silence was so sudden and so complete that it was deafening. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Harold's mouth fell open. His eyes went wide. The baby in his arms was quiet for the first time in 4 months. "Oh my God," he whispered. "What is happening?" Dominic stood frozen. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move. He could only stare at the impossible scene in front of him. Maya didn't notice any of it. She was looking down at Isabella, at this precious, beautiful, motherless baby girl who had finally stopped crying. And she started to sing. It was an old gospel song. A lullaby her grandmother had taught her when she was just a little girl in Mississippi, sitting on the front porch while the sun went down and the fireflies came out. Her grandmother had sung it to Maya's mother. Her mother had sung it to her. And Maya had planned to sing it to Isaiah. She never got the chance. But now, holding this baby who wasn't hers, she finally sang the words she had been carrying in her heart for 2 years. "Hush now, little one, don't you cry. Mama's gonna sing you a lullaby. When the world gets dark and you can't see, just close your eyes and lean on me." Her voice was soft, rough with emotion, broken in places. But Isabella's eyes fluttered closed. Her tiny fingers tightened on Maya's uniform. Her breathing slowed, and for the first time in 4 months, she fell into a real peaceful sleep. Harold quickly and quietly placed Sophia in her crib. The baby watched her sister for a moment, then she yawned and closed her eyes too. Within minutes, both twins were sleeping soundly. The nursery was silent. Dominic Romano, the most feared man in Chicago, the head of a crime family that had ruled this city for 3 generations, slowly slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. His shoulders started to shake. His head dropped into his hands, and he cried. He cried like Maya had never seen a man cry before. Great heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his chest. Tears streaming through his fingers. He cried for Serena, the wife he had loved and lost. He cried for Isabella and Sophia, the daughters he couldn't comfort. He cried for 4 months of helplessness and exhaustion and despair. Maya stood in the middle of the nursery holding the sleeping baby, and she didn't know what to do, so she just kept singing, softly, quietly, until the room felt like a different place entirely. Harold pulled out the small notebook he always carried. His hands were trembling so badly he could barely write. 25 years I've worked for this family, he whispered to himself. 25 years, and I have never seen anything like this. He wrote the date. He wrote the time. He wrote, "The new maid made the babies stop crying. A miracle." But there was someone else who had witnessed the miracle, someone who wasn't writing about it in a notebook, someone who was watching through the crack in the nursery door with eyes full of cold, burning hatred. Dr. Veronica Ashford had arrived at the mansion 30 minutes ago for a routine checkup. She had heard the sudden silence from upstairs. She had crept to the nursery door to see what was happening, and she had seen everything. She had seen Maya reach out for the baby. She had seen Isabella stop crying instantly. She had seen Dominic sink to the floor and weep with relief. But worst of all, she had seen the way Dominic looked at Maya. That look. It was the first time in 4 months that Veronica had seen anything other than despair in his eyes. And it wasn't meant for her. It was meant for a black maid from the South Side who had been working in this house for less than 3 weeks. Veronica's hands curled into fists at her sides. She had loved Dominic Romano for 5 years. 5 years of watching him marry another woman. 5 years of attending their wedding and smiling through her teeth and pretending to be happy for them. 5 years of watching Serena get everything that should have been hers. When Serena died, Veronica had thought her time had finally come. She had thought Dominic would eventually see her, notice her, love her, but instead, he had spent 4 months locked in his own grief, unable to see anything or anyone beyond his crying daughters. And now this. Now some nobody with a mop and a cleaning cart was going to steal him. No. Veronica took a deep breath. She composed her face into a mask of professional concern. Then she pushed the door open and walked into the nursery. "My goodness," she said in a voice dripping with sweetness. "What on earth happened in here? I could hear the silence all the way downstairs." Dominic looked up at her from the floor. He wiped his face, quickly, embarrassed to be caught crying. "Veronica, you're here for the checkup." "I am, but it seems like something much more interesting is going on." She walked closer to the crib where Sophia was sleeping. Her eyes never left Maya. The baby stopped crying. How extraordinary. "Maya did it," Harold said excitedly. "She just held Isabella and started singing, and both babies fell asleep. It's a miracle, Dr. Ashford. A genuine miracle." Veronica's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. A miracle. Yes, how wonderful. She walked around the crib slowly, pretending to check on the sleeping babies. But her mind was racing. "Dominic," she said carefully, "can I speak with you privately for a moment? There's something I need to discuss with you, about the baby's care." Dominic pushed himself up from the floor. "Of course. Harold, stay here with Maya. Make sure the babies stay asleep." He followed Veronica out into the hallway and closed the door behind them. Veronica waited until they were out of earshot before she spoke. "I don't want to alarm you," she said in a low voice, "but I have some concerns about what just happened in there." Dominic frowned. "Concerns? My daughters are sleeping for the first time in 4 months. What could you possibly be concerned about? That's exactly what worries me." Veronica leaned closer. "Think about it, Dominic. This woman has been working here for less than 3 weeks. She has no training, no qualifications, no experience with children. And suddenly, she can do something that dozens of specialists couldn't." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's suspicious. There are medications that can make babies fall asleep very quickly. Sedatives, drugs, things that wouldn't show up on a standard medical examination." Dominic's face darkened. "You think she drugged my daughters?" "I think we need to be careful. You don't know anything about this woman. You don't know where she came from or what her background is or why she really took this job." Veronica put her hand on his arm. "I've been your family's doctor for 5 years. I care about Isabella and Sophia like they were my own. I just want to make sure they're safe." Dominic was quiet for a long moment. The exhaustion in his eyes was mixing with something else now. Doubt, suspicion. "What do you suggest?" "Investigate her. Find out who she really is. And until you know for certain that she can be trusted, don't leave her alone with the babies." Veronica watched the seeds of distrust take root in Dominic's mind. She smiled inwardly. This was just the beginning. Back in the nursery, Maya was still holding Isabella. The baby was sleeping so peacefully that Maya was afraid to move, afraid to even breathe too loudly in case she woke her. Harold was watching her with an expression of wonder. "How did you do it?" he asked softly. "What's your secret?" Maya shook her head. I don't have a secret. I just knew she needed to be held. That's all. But the doctors, the specialists, everyone tried holding them. Nothing worked. Maya looked down at Isabella's sleeping face. So peaceful, so innocent. Maybe they were holding them wrong, she said quietly. Maybe they were holding them like problems that needed to be solved, instead of just holding them. Harold was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. You lost a child, didn't you? Maya's breath caught in her throat. How did you know? I've worked in this house for 25 years. I've seen a lot of pain. And I know what it looks like when someone is holding a baby like they're afraid to let go. He paused. I'm sorry for your loss. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back. His name was Isaiah, she whispered. He would have been 2 years old now. Harold didn't say anything. He just reached out and gently squeezed her shoulder. It was such a small gesture, such a simple thing. But Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Something that had been frozen for 2 years was starting to thaw. The nursery door opened, and Dominic walked back in. His expression was unreadable. Harold, leave us, he said. I need to speak with Maya alone. Harold looked uncertain, but he nodded and left the room, closing the door behind him. Maya's heart started pounding. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the air. Put the baby down, Dominic said. Maya carefully placed Isabella back in her crib. The baby stirred slightly but didn't wake. When Maya turned around, Dominic was standing very close to her. His eyes were cold, suspicious. The warmth she had seen when he was crying on the floor was completely gone. Who are you? He demanded. I'm Maya Jenkins, the new maid. You know who I am. I know what you told me. I don't know if any of it is true. He took a step closer. Dr. Ashford raised some concerns about what happened here. She thinks you might have given my daughters something to make them sleep. Maya felt like she had been slapped. What? No, I would never. Then explain it to me. Explain how a maid with no training and no experience can do something that doctors and specialists couldn't do. Explain why my daughters suddenly fell asleep the moment you touched them. I don't know. Maya's voice was rising with panic. I don't know how to explain it. I just held her and sang to her and she stopped crying. That's all that happened. I swear to God. Dominic studied her face. Those sharp eyes that could see through lies were searching every inch of her expression. Dr. Ashford has been my family's doctor for 5 years, he said slowly. She's someone I trust, someone who has never given me any reason to doubt her. And you're a stranger who walked in off the street 3 weeks ago. Maya felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. This couldn't be happening. She had finally found a safe place, and now it was being ripped away from her. Please, she whispered. I didn't do anything wrong. I would never hurt those babies. I know what it's like to lose a child. I would never put another mother through that pain. Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. What did you say? I lost a baby. 2 years ago. My son. His name was Isaiah. Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. I know what it feels like to have your child taken from you. I know that pain. I would die before I caused it to someone else. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. The suspicion in his eyes was warring with something else, something that looked almost like recognition. How did you lose your son? Maya closed her eyes. The memories came flooding back whether she wanted them to or not. My ex-husband, Marcus Thompson. He beat me when I was 5 months pregnant. Beat me so badly that I lost the baby. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Dominic. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I could be lying. You're thinking I could be making this up to manipulate you. But I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. And if you don't believe me, then fire me. Throw me out. But don't you ever accuse me of hurting a child. The room was silent, except for the soft breathing of the sleeping babies. Dominic stood very still. His expression was impossible to read. Then he did something that Maya didn't expect. He sat down in the rocking chair by the window. He put his head in his hands. And when he spoke, his voice was tired, so tired. I don't know what to believe anymore. I haven't slept in 4 months. My wife is dead. My daughters won't stop crying. And now... He laughed bitterly. Now a maid makes them fall asleep by singing a lullaby, and I'm supposed to decide whether it's a miracle or a con job. Maya didn't move. She didn't know what to say. Do you want to know what the worst part is? Dominic continued. The worst part is that I want to believe you. I want to believe that you're exactly what you seem to be. A woman who can help my daughters. Because if you're not... He looked up at her. If you're not, then I'm back to where I started. And I don't think I can survive that. Maya took a deep breath. She walked over to the rocking chair and knelt down so that she was at eye level with him. I'm not going to hurt your daughters, she said quietly. I don't have any proof to give you. I don't have any way to make you trust me. All I have is my word. And my word is that I will protect those babies with my life. Dominic looked at her for a long time, searching her face, looking for lies. Whatever he saw, it must have convinced him. I'm going to have you investigated, he said finally. I'm going to find out everything there is to know about you, where you came from, what you've done, who you really are. Maya nodded. That's fair. And until that investigation is complete, you won't be alone with my daughters. Harold or one of my men will always be in the room with you. I understand. Dominic stood up. He was so close to her that she could see the individual hairs in his stubble, the exhaustion in his eyes. I hope you're telling the truth, Maya Jenkins, he said softly, for both our sakes. He walked out of the nursery and closed the door behind him. Maya stood alone in the room with the sleeping babies. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was pounding. She had just survived something. She wasn't sure what, but she knew that the game had changed, and somewhere in this mansion, Dr. Veronica Ashford was plotting her next move. The investigation into Maya's background took 3 days. 3 days of armed men following her everywhere she went. 3 days of suspicious glances from the other staff. 3 days of Veronica Ashford showing up for checkups that seemed more like surveillance missions. But also 3 days of something else. 3 days of Isabella and Sophia sleeping peacefully whenever Maya was near them. 3 days of the babies reaching for her with their tiny hands. 3 days of their eyes following her around the room like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. On the 3rd night, Maya was sitting in the nursery feeding Sophia when Dominic walked in. He looked different, still tired, but something had changed in his eyes. The suspicion was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like respect. I got the results of the investigation, he said. Maya's hands tightened on the bottle. And you were telling the truth about everything. He sat down in the chair across from her. Marcus Thompson, the abuse, the baby you lost, the debt you owe to Frank Castellano's organization. Maya felt her face flush with shame. All of her secrets, all of her pain laid bare for this stranger to see. I know everything now, Dominic continued. I know that you've been running from your ex-husband for 2 years. I know that he's threatened to kill you if you don't pay his debt. I know that you took this job because you were desperate and scared and out of options. He leaned forward. I also know that you're not a threat to my daughters. You're just a woman who's been through hell and is trying to survive. Maya didn't know what to say. She just kept feeding Sophia, her hands shaking slightly. I owe you an apology, Dominic said, for doubting you, for treating you like a criminal when you hadn't done anything wrong. You were protecting your daughters. I understand. You're very forgiving for someone who was accused of drugging children. Maya looked up at him. I've been accused of worse things by people I trusted a lot more than you. At least you were trying to protect someone other than yourself. Something passed between them in that moment. An understanding, a recognition of shared pain. Dominic stood up. I want to make you an offer. An offer? I want you to become Isabella and Sophia's full-time nanny. You'd live here in the mansion. You'd be with them 24 hours a day. I'll pay you 10 times what you're making now. Maya's mouth fell open. Mr. Romano, I'm not qualified. You're the only person who can make my daughter stop crying. That's the only qualification that matters. He paused. And there's something else. If you agree to stay, I'll take care of your debt to Frank Castellano, all $50,000, gone, and I'll make sure that Marcus Thompson never comes near you again. Maya couldn't breathe. This was too much, too fast, too impossible. Why? She whispered. Why would you do all that for me? Dominic walked to the window and looked out at the darkness. Because my wife died bringing my daughters into this world. I promised her as she was dying in my arms that I would protect them no matter what. That I would give them everything they needed to be happy and healthy and safe. His voice cracked slightly. For 4 months I've broken that promise. Every single day I've listened to them cry and been completely powerless to help them. Do you know what that feels like? To look at your children and know that you're failing them? He turned back to Maya. And then you came along. You held my daughter and she stopped crying. You sang to her and she fell asleep. You did something that no one else could do. His eyes were bright with emotion. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what I have to do. If you can give my daughters peace, I will give you anything you want. Maya looked down at Sophia, who had fallen asleep in her arms. This tiny, precious, motherless baby girl. She thought about her own life. The running, the hiding, the constant fear, the debt hanging over her head like a guillotine. She thought about Isaiah, about all the ways she had failed him, about the lullabies she never got to sing. And she made a decision. I'll do it, she said. I'll stay. Dominic's face transformed. The tension drained out of his shoulders. Something that might have been hope flickered in his eyes. Thank you, he said. And for the first time since she had met him, he sounded like he meant it. But Maya held up her hand. I have conditions. Name them. First, I won't do anything illegal. I've had enough trouble in my life. I won't add criminal to the list. Done. Second, you have to promise me that whatever happens, you won't let Marcus find me. I know you're powerful. I know you have resources. But that man... She shuddered. That man is a monster. And if he finds me, he won't just kill me. He'll make me suffer first. Dominic's expression hardened. Marcus Thompson will never touch you again. You have my word. Maya nodded slowly. Then we have a deal. She didn't know it yet, but she had just made a deal with the devil. And the devil was about to collect. That night, after Maya had moved into her new room and the babies were sleeping peacefully, Anthony Russo knocked on Dominic's study door. Anthony was Dominic's right-hand man. He was 42 years old, built like a boxer, and had been with the Romano family since he was 18. There was nothing he wouldn't do for Dominic. And right now he was carrying a file that was going to change everything. Boss, he said as he entered, you asked me to dig deeper into Maya Jenkins's ex-husband. I found something. Dominic took the file and started reading. With every page, his face grew darker. Marcus Thompson didn't just owe money to Frank Castellano. Anthony explained. He worked for him. He was a courier for Castellano's drug operation. The $50,000 he owes? That's money he stole from a shipment before he disappeared. Dominic's jaw tightened. So he's not just an abusive husband. He's a thief and a drug runner. There's more. Anthony hesitated. Boss, I don't know how to tell you this. Just say it. Frank Castellano. He's the one who ordered the hit on your wife. The room went completely silent. Dominic looked up from the file. His face was white. His eyes were burning with a rage so intense it was almost visible. What did you say? Serena. She was poisoned. slowly over the course of her pregnancy. That's why she was so weak when she gave birth. That's why she died. Anthony's voice was barely above a whisper. And Frank Castellano ordered it, as revenge for what you did to his brother. The file fell from Dominic's hands, papers scattered across the floor. Are you telling me, he said slowly, his voice shaking with barely controlled fury, that Maya Jenkins' ex-husband worked for the man who murdered my wife? She doesn't know. I'm certain of it. Everything in her file shows that she was just as much a victim of Marcus as anyone else. She had no idea what he was involved in. Dominic stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. Bring her to me, now. 10 minutes later, Maya was standing in Dominic's study, confused and frightened by the urgent summons. She knew immediately that something was wrong. Dominic's face was a mask of barely contained rage. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wild. Do you know who Frank Castellano is? He demanded. Maya shook her head. I only know that Marcus owed money to some gang. I never knew any names. He never told me anything about what he did. Frank Castellano is the man who killed my wife. Maya felt like the floor had dropped out from under her feet. What? Your ex-husband worked for the man who murdered Serena, the mother of my daughters, the woman I loved more than my own life. I didn't know. Maya's voice was shaking. Tears were streaming down her face. I swear to God I didn't know. Marcus never told me anything. I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to get away from him. She showed him her scarred arm, the long jagged line that ran from her wrist to her elbow. This is what he did to me because I looked at another man. When I was pregnant, he beat me so badly I lost my baby. I didn't know anything about his business. I didn't know who he worked for. I'm just a woman who's been running from a monster for 2 years. Dominic stood very still. His rage was battling with something else, something that looked almost like pain. Please, Maya whispered. You have to believe me. For a long moment he didn't respond. He just stood there looking at her, seeing through all her defenses to the broken woman underneath. Then he did something that surprised them both. He walked over to her and took her scarred arm in his hands, gently, like it was something precious. I believe you, he said quietly. Maya looked at him in shock. You do. I've spent my whole life surrounded by liars and traitors. I know what deception looks like. And you? He shook his head. You're not deceiving me. You're just surviving. The same way we all are. He released her arm. From this moment on, you're under my protection. No one will ever hurt you again. Not Frank Castellano, not his men, and especially not Marcus Thompson. His eyes hardened into something dangerous. I promise you, Maya, that man is going to pay for what he did to you, and for what his boss did to my wife. Maya didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to think. This man, this dangerous, powerful, terrifying man, was offering her something she had never had in her entire life. Safety, protection, a chance to stop running, and maybe, just maybe, something more. She didn't see Veronica Ashford standing in the shadows at the end of the hallway, watching, listening, planning. The doctor had heard everything, and she was already figuring out how to use it. Marcus Thompson was alive. He was dangerous. And he wanted his ex-wife dead. All Veronica had to do was find him and make him an offer he couldn't refuse. She smiled in the darkness. The game was just beginning. 2 weeks after Maya became the official nanny, the Romano mansion transformed into something no one had seen in 4 months. The babies slept through the night. They laughed during the day. They reached for Maya every time she walked into the room, like she was the sun. And they were flowers, desperate for light. Harold wrote in his notebook every single day. He documented everything. The first time Isabella smiled. The first time Sophia grabbed Maya's finger and wouldn't let go. The first time both babies slept for 8 hours straight without waking up once. It's a miracle, he told Anthony one morning. I've served this family for 25 years. I've never seen anything like this. But not everyone in the mansion was celebrating. Veronica Ashford came for her twice-weekly checkups with a smile on her face and murder in her heart. She watched Maya hold the babies. She watched Dominic watch Maya. She watched the way his eyes softened when he looked at this woman who had appeared out of nowhere and stolen everything. Every visit Veronica planted seeds of doubt. The babies seem a little too calm today. Are you sure she's not giving them something? I noticed Maya was alone with Sophia for almost an hour yesterday. Isn't that against the rules you set? I heard Maya singing to the babies again. Do you know what those songs mean? What if she's teaching them something inappropriate? But Dominic wasn't listening anymore. He had watched Maya for 2 weeks. He had seen the way she cared for his daughters, the way she held them like they were precious, the way she sang to them with tears in her eyes. Whatever doubts Veronica tried to plant, they wouldn't take root. So Veronica decided to try a different approach. On a Thursday evening, 3 weeks after the miracle in the nursery, Veronica drove to the worst part of Chicago. She parked her expensive car in a dark alley and waited. 15 minutes later, a thin man with bloodshot eyes and track marks on his arms knocked on her window. Marcus Thompson looked like death walking. He had lost weight since the photos in Maya's file. His clothes were dirty. His hands were shaking. He looked like a man who had been running for a long time and was running out of places to hide. Veronica rolled down her window. "You're looking for your ex-wife," she said. "I know where she is." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm someone who wants the same thing you want. I want Maya Jenkins gone." She pulled out a photograph and handed it to him. It showed Maya in the garden of the Romano mansion, holding Isabella in her arms, smiling like she had finally found peace. Marcus stared at the photo. His jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. "She's living in a mansion now, while I'm hiding in crack houses trying to stay alive. She's doing more than living there. She's becoming part of the family. The head of the Romano family is falling in love with her." Dominic Romano. Marcus laughed bitterly. "She went from me to the most powerful mafia boss in Chicago that little whore moved up in the world." Veronica smiled. "I can help you get to her. I can tell you exactly when she's alone, exactly where the security gaps are, exactly how to get inside that mansion without being seen." "And what do you want in return?" "I want her destroyed. I want her reputation ruined. I want Dominic Romano to hate her so much that he throws her out on the street." Veronica leaned closer. "And when that happens, she's all yours. You can do whatever you want with her. No one will be there to protect her." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "You're in love with him, Romano. That's what this is about." Veronica didn't deny it. "Do we have a deal?" Marcus looked at the photo again, at Maya's smiling face, at the happiness in her eyes. "Yeah," he said slowly. "We have a deal." While Veronica was making her devil's bargain, something else was happening at the Romano mansion. It started small. A look that lasted a moment too long. A brush of fingers when passing the babies back and forth. A conversation that went deeper than employer and employee should go. Maya noticed it first. The way Dominic started coming to the nursery more often. The way he found excuses to be in whatever room she was in. The way his eyes followed her when he thought she wasn't looking. She tried to ignore it. She was the nanny. He was her boss. He was one of the most dangerous men in Chicago. There were 1,000 reasons why she shouldn't feel the flutter in her chest every time he walked into a room, but the heart doesn't listen to reasons. One night, about 4 weeks after Maya moved into the mansion, Sophia woke up crying at 2 in the morning. It wasn't the desperate screaming from before, just the normal fussing of a baby who needed comfort. Maya picked her up and started rocking her, singing softly. She was so focused on the baby that she didn't hear the door open. "You sing beautifully." Maya spun around. Dominic was standing in the doorway in a t-shirt and sweatpants, his hair messy from sleep. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "Did I wake you?" "No, I was already awake." He walked into the room and sat down in the chair by the window. "I don't sleep much. Haven't for months." Maya continued rocking Sophia, very aware of how close he was. The babies are sleeping better. You should try to rest when they rest. I know. He ran a hand through his hair. Every time I close my eyes, I see Serena. I see her dying in my arms. I hear her begging me to take care of our daughters. Maya's heart ached for him. You're honoring her wishes. You're taking care of them. No, you're taking care of them. He laughed bitterly. I'm just the man who writes the checks. That's not true. Maya walked over and sat in the chair across from him. Sophia was already falling back asleep. Those girls know who their father is. They light up every time you walk into the room. They light up for you. They love both of us, in different ways. She paused. You're a good father, Dominic. You're doing everything you can. He looked at her for a long moment. In the dim light of the nursery, his eyes seemed darker, deeper. Can I ask you something personal? Maya tensed. Okay. Do you still think about your son, Isaiah? The name hit her like a punch to the chest. She hadn't heard anyone say it out loud in 2 years. Every day, she whispered. Every single day. What do you think he would have been like? Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. I think about that all the time. I imagine him taking his first steps, saying his first words. I imagine his laugh. She wiped at her face. Stupid, right? He never even got to be born, and I imagine what his laugh would sound like. That's not stupid. That's love. Maya looked up at him through her tears. Sometimes I feel guilty. Being here, caring for your daughters. It feels like I'm betraying him somehow, like I'm replacing him. Dominic leaned forward. You're not replacing him. You're honoring him. You're giving to Isabella and Sophia what you would have given to Isaiah. That's not betrayal. That's the most beautiful gift anyone could give. Maya broke down completely then. All the grief she had been holding inside for 2 years came pouring out. And Dominic did something that surprised them both. He reached out and took her hand. They sat like that for a long time. Two broken people holding on to each other in the dark, not speaking, not needing to speak. Sophia slept peacefully in Maya's other arm, completely unaware that something was shifting in the room. Something was changing. Something was beginning. The next morning, Harold noticed the change immediately. He had worked for the Romano family for 25 years. He knew how to read the subtle shifts in the air. He watched Dominic at breakfast. The man was smiling. Actually smiling. Not the forced smile he wore at business meetings. A real smile that reached his eyes. And Harold noticed the way Dominic kept glancing toward the nursery. The way his face softened every time Maya's voice drifted down from upstairs. Harold wrote in his notebook, "Something is happening between Mr. Romano and Maya. I don't know if it's wise, but I haven't seen him this happy since Mrs. Romano died." Veronica noticed the change too. She came for her Tuesday checkup and found Dominic in the nursery sitting on the floor while Maya changed Isabella's diaper. He was making faces at Sophia, who was giggling uncontrollably. The sight made Veronica's blood boil. "Am I interrupting something?" she asked coldly. Dominic looked up, still smiling. "Veronica, I didn't hear you come in." "Clearly." She walked over to the cribs and pretended to check the baby's vital signs. "The babies seem healthy. I suppose Maya is taking good care of them." "She's amazing," Dominic said. The warmth in his voice was unmistakable. "I don't know what we would do without her." Maya kept her head down, focused on Isabella, but she could feel Veronica's eyes burning into her back. "I'd like to speak with you privately, Dominic," Veronica said, "about the baby's medical care." They stepped into the hallway. As soon as the door closed, Veronica dropped her fake smile. "What are you doing?" she demanded. Dominic frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean with the maid. I saw the way you were looking at her. I saw the way you were acting." Her voice was sharp, accusing. "Your wife has been dead less than 6 months, and you're already falling for the help." Dominic's expression hardened. Be careful, Veronica. Someone needs to say it. That woman appeared out of nowhere. Her ex-husband worked for Frank Castellano. She could be a plant. She could be using those babies to get close to you. I've had her thoroughly investigated. She's not a threat. Then what is she? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's manipulating you, using your grief and your loneliness to worm her way into your life. Dominic took a step closer to Veronica. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Maya has done more for my daughters in 1 month than anyone else has done in 4. She has given them peace. She has given them love. And she has asked for nothing in return. His eyes were cold. I don't know what your problem with her is, Veronica, but I suggest you figure it out. Because if I have to choose between your paranoia and her presence in my daughters' lives, it won't be a difficult choice. He turned and walked back into the nursery, leaving Veronica standing alone in the hallway with her face burning with humiliation. She had pushed too hard. She had shown her hand too soon. But it didn't matter. She had already set her real plan in motion. Marcus Thompson was out there, waiting, planning, and when he finally made his move, Maya Jenkins would wish she had never set foot in the Romano mansion. 1 week later, Maya received a package. It was waiting for her outside her bedroom door when she came back from putting the babies down for their afternoon nap. A small brown box with no return address. She opened it without thinking. Inside was a dead rose and a photograph. The photograph showed Maya leaving her old apartment 2 years ago, the night she finally escaped from Marcus. Someone had drawn a red X over her face. At the bottom of the box was a note written in handwriting she knew too well. I found you. I'm coming. And this time, you won't get away. Maya's scream brought Harold running from downstairs. She was sitting on the floor outside her room, her whole body shaking, the box and its contents scattered around her. What happened? Harold knelt beside her. Maya, talk to me. What's wrong? She couldn't speak. She could only point at the note. Harold read it, and his face went pale. Stay here. Don't move. He ran to find Anthony, who found Dominic, who came thundering up the stairs with murder in his eyes. He took one look at the dead rose, the photograph, the note, and his whole demeanor changed. Gone was the softness Maya had seen in the nursery. In its place was the Mafia boss everyone feared. Anthony locked down the mansion. No one in or out without my personal approval. Double the security detail. I want eyes on every entrance, every window, every possible point of access. Yes, boss. Harold, stay with Maya. Don't let her out of your sight. Of course, sir. Dominic knelt down beside Maya. His voice softened, but his eyes were still dangerous. He's not going to touch you. Do you understand me? I don't care if I have to burn this entire city to the ground. Marcus Thompson is never going to hurt you again. Maya looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. How did he find me? I was so careful. I changed my name. I moved. I did everything right. How did he find me? Dominic didn't have an answer, but a cold suspicion was forming in his mind. Someone had told Marcus where Maya was. Someone who had access to information about the mansion. Someone who wanted Maya gone. His thoughts went to Veronica Ashford, but he pushed them aside for now. The immediate priority was keeping Maya safe. You're not staying in this room anymore, he said. You're moving to the room next to mine on the 3rd floor. It's more secure. And I want you to have a guard with you at all times when you're outside the nursery. The babies? The babies are safe. You're the one he's after. He reached out and cupped her face in his hands. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, Maya. I promise. She looked into his eyes and saw something there that made her breath catch. Something deeper than protection. Something that looked almost like love. Why are you doing all this for me? She whispered. I'm nobody. I'm just a maid. You're not nobody. His thumb brushed across her cheek, wiping away a tear. You're the woman who saved my daughters. You're the woman who gave me hope when I had none left. He paused. You're everything." Before either of them knew what was happening, he leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead. It was gentle, tender, a promise rather than a demand. "I won't let him hurt you," he whispered against her skin. "Even if it costs me everything." Maya closed her eyes and let herself believe him. For the first time in 2 years, she felt something other than fear. She felt safe. But 2 floors below, hidden in a supply closet, with a burner phone pressed to her ear, Veronica Ashford was making another call. "The package was delivered," she whispered into the phone. She's terrified. "Romano has increased security, but I know the gaps. I can get you inside." Marcus Thompson's voice crackled through the speaker. "When?" Veronica smiled in the darkness. "Saturday night. There's a charity event. Half the security team will be escorting Romano. The mansion will be vulnerable." "And you're sure she'll be there?" "She won't leave the babies. She never leaves them." Veronica's smile widened. "She'll be exactly where you want her. Alone. Unprotected. Ready for you." "What about the babies? What about them?" There was a pause. "I don't hurt kids. That's not what this is about. I don't care what you do to Maya. But the babies don't get touched. Understood?" "Yeah, I understand." Marcus laughed. "You really hate this woman, don't you?" Veronica thought about Dominic's face when he looked at Maya, the warmth in his eyes, the tenderness in his voice. 5 years she had waited for him to look at her like that. "You have no idea," she said softly. "I'll text you the details. Don't mess this up." She ended the call and stepped out of the closet, smoothing her dress and composing her face into its usual mask of professional concern. 3 days until Saturday. 3 days until Maya Jenkins learned what it meant to cross her. And somewhere in the nursery above, baby Isabella woke up from her nap and started to cry. Not the desperate screaming from before, just a soft whimper, like she sensed something bad was coming and didn't know how to warn anyone. Saturday came faster than anyone expected. The morning started like any other. Maya fed the babies at 7. She bathed them at 8. She sang to them while they played on the soft mat in the nursery, their giggles filling the room like music. But underneath the routine, fear was coiling in Maya's stomach like a snake. 3 days had passed since the package arrived. 3 days of jumping at every shadow. 3 days of nightmares about Marcus's face twisted with rage. 3 days of Dominic's men following her everywhere she went. She hadn't told anyone, but she had started sleeping with a knife under her pillow again. Old habits from her marriage that she thought she had left behind. At noon, Dominic came to the nursery to say goodbye. He was wearing a tuxedo for the charity gala downtown. He looked handsome, powerful. Nothing like the broken man she had met 2 months ago. "I don't want to go," he said, watching Maya rock Sophia in her arms. "I can send Anthony in my place." "You can't skip your own charity event. People are expecting you." "I don't care about people. I care about you and the girls." Maya's heart fluttered, but she pushed the feeling down. "We'll be fine. You have guards everywhere. Harold is staying with us. Nothing is going to happen." Dominic walked closer. He reached out and touched her cheek, a gesture that had become familiar over the past week. Every touch lingered longer than the last. Every look went deeper. "If anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. I can be back here in 20 minutes. "Nothing is going to happen," Maya repeated, but even she didn't believe it. Dominic leaned down and kissed Isabella's forehead, then Sophia's. Then he looked at Maya with something burning in his eyes. "When I get back tonight, we need to talk. About us. About what's happening between us." Maya's breath caught. "Dominic." "I know the timing is wrong. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is complicated. But I can't pretend anymore." He took her hand. "I'm falling in love with you, Maya. And I think you feel the same way." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. Anthony was waiting downstairs. "We'll talk tonight," Dominic said. He squeezed her hand once, then turned and walked out. Maya stood in the nursery holding Sophia, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. He loved her. Dominic Romano, the most powerful and dangerous man in Chicago, was falling in love with her. And God help her, she was falling for him too. By 6 o'clock the mansion was quiet. Most of the security team had gone with Dominic to the gala. Only 4 guards remained stationed at the main entrances. Harold was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Maya was upstairs with the babies. She didn't know that Veronica Ashford had arrived 30 minutes earlier. Veronica had told the guards she was there for an emergency medical check. The babies had seemed fussy earlier, she claimed. She wanted to make sure everything was okay. The guards let her in without question. She had been coming to this mansion for 5 years. She was trusted. She walked upstairs slowly, her medical bag in her hand. But inside that bag wasn't medicine. It was a syringe filled with sedative. The same sedative she would use on the babies in 3 weeks. But tonight, it was for a different purpose. Tonight, it was for Maya. At 6:15, Veronica knocked on the nursery door. Maya looked up in surprise. "Dr. Ashford, I didn't know you were coming." Last-minute decision. Veronica walked in with her fake smile firmly in place. "I heard the babies were fussy this afternoon. I wanted to check on them." "They're fine now. They just had a little gas after lunch." Still better safe than sorry. Veronica set her bag down and walked over to Isabella's crib. "How are you doing, little one? Let me take a look at you." Maya watched her examine Isabella. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what. "Maya, could you get me some warm water and a clean cloth? I want to clean up after the examination." "Of course." Maya set Sophia down in her crib and headed for the door. She was halfway down the hallway when she realized she had left her phone in the nursery. She turned back to get it. And that's when she heard it. A door opening downstairs. Footsteps that were too heavy to be Harold's. A guard's voice shouting something, then cutting off abruptly. Then silence. Maya's blood turned to ice. She ran back to the nursery and threw open the door. "Dr. Ashford, something's wrong. I think someone—" She stopped. Veronica was standing by the window with her phone in her hand. She was smiling. Not the fake smile Maya had seen 100 times. A real smile, cold and triumphant. "He's inside," Veronica said into the phone. "She's in the nursery, 3rd floor east wing." She ended the call and looked at Maya. "Hello, Maya. I believe you have a visitor." Maya couldn't breathe. "What did you do?" "What I should have done weeks ago." Veronica walked toward her slowly. "Did you really think you could just waltz in here and steal everything from me? 5 years I've waited for Dominic to notice me. 5 years of watching him love other women while I stood in the shadows. You're insane." "I'm in love." "There's a difference." Veronica pulled the syringe from her pocket. "But don't worry. I'm not going to kill you. That's not my job. I'm just going to make sure you can't run." Maya backed toward the door. "Stay away from me." "Your ex-husband is very eager to see you again. He's been waiting a long time for this reunion." Marcus. Marcus was in the mansion. Maya's survival instincts kicked in. She grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, from the dresser and swung it at Veronica's head. Veronica ducked, but not fast enough. The lamp caught her shoulder and sent her stumbling backward. The syringe flew from her hand and rolled under the crib. Maya didn't wait. She ran to Isabella's crib, scooped up the baby, then grabbed Sophia with her other arm. Both babies started crying at the sudden movement. "You can't run!" Veronica spat, clutching her injured shoulder. "He's already inside. The guards are down. There's nowhere to go." Maya didn't listen. She ran out of the nursery and down the hallway, both babies screaming in her arms. She had to get to Harold. She had to get to a phone. She had to call Dominic. She was halfway down the stairs when she saw him. Marcus Thompson was standing at the bottom of the staircase. He was thinner than she remembered, dirtier, but his eyes were the same. Cold, cruel, filled with a hatred that had only grown stronger in the 2 years since she escaped. "Hello, Maya," he said. "Miss me?" Maya froze on the stairs. The babies were crying so loud she could barely think. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this. Not in front of the children." "Children." Marcus laughed. "You care about children now. You didn't seem to care when you murdered our son." "I didn't murder him. You beat me until I lost him. You killed Isaiah, not me." Marcus's face twisted with rage. He started climbing the stairs toward her. "You lying whore. You always were a liar. Everything that happened was your fault. Everything." Maya backed up the stairs, clutching the babies to her chest. She had to protect them. Whatever happened to her, she had to protect Isabella and Sophia. "Harold!" she screamed. "Harold, help! Your butler can't help you!" Marcus kept climbing. "He's taking a little nap in the kitchen. Don't worry, I didn't kill him. I save my killing for special occasions." He was getting closer. 10 steps away. 8. 6. Maya turned and ran back up the stairs. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to get away. She ran down the hallway toward Dominic's room. It had a lock. It had a phone. If she could just get inside and barricade the door. She was 3 feet from the door when Marcus grabbed her hair. The pain was blinding. She screamed as he yanked her backward. She twisted trying to protect the babies and fell hard on her side. Isabella flew from her arms. Time seemed to slow down. Maya watched in horror as the baby tumbled through the air. She reached out desperately, but she wasn't fast enough. Isabella hit the floor with a sickening thud. And then she wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't making any sound at all. "No!" Maya screamed. "No, no, no!" She crawled toward the baby, still clutching Sophia with one arm. Isabella was lying motionless on the carpet. Her eyes were closed. A small trickle of blood was running from her head. "Look what you made me do," Marcus said behind her. "This is your fault, Maya. Everything is always your fault." Maya gathered Isabella in her arms. The baby was breathing. Thank God she was breathing. But she wasn't moving. She wasn't crying. "Please," Maya begged, tears streaming down her face. "Please, she needs a doctor. She needs help. Please let me help her." Marcus grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall. Sophia screamed. Isabella remained limp in Maya's other arm. "You don't get to beg," Marcus hissed in her face. "You don't get to ask for anything. Do you know what my life has been like since you left? Do you know what I've been through? I don't care what you've been through." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. His hand was crushing her windpipe. "You're a monster." Marcus squeezed harder. "I'm going to kill you, Maya. Slowly, painfully. And then I'm going to disappear, and no one will ever find me." Maya's vision was going dark. She couldn't breathe. She could feel Sophia squirming against her chest and Isabella's dead weight in her other arm. This was how she was going to die. In a hallway, strangled by the man who had already taken everything from her. She thought about Isaiah. About the son she never got to hold. She thought about Dominic. About the love she never got to explore. She thought about Isabella and Sophia. About the babies she had grown to love as her own. And something inside her snapped. With the last of her strength, she brought her knee up hard between Marcus's legs. He howled in pain and released her throat. Maya gasped for air and ran. She didn't know where she found the strength. She didn't know how her legs kept moving. She just ran, clutching both babies down the hallway and into Dominic's bedroom. She slammed the door and locked it. Marcus was pounding on the other side immediately. "Open this door, Maya. Open it, or I'll break it down." Maya ignored him. She laid Isabella gently on the bed and grabbed the phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. "Maya," Dominic's voice. "Thank God." "He's here," she gasped. "Marcus is here. He hurt Isabella. She hit her head. She won't wake up. Please, Dominic, please come home." I'm coming. I'm leaving right now. Anthony is calling the police. Just stay where you are. Lock the door and don't let him in. I already locked it. He's trying to break it down. The pounding on the door was getting louder. The wood was starting to crack. Maya, listen to me. There's a gun in my nightstand. Right side drawer. Take it. Maya ran to the nightstand and yanked open the drawer. The gun was there, black and heavy and terrifying. I've never shot a gun before. Point it at the door. If he breaks through, aim for his chest and pull the trigger. Don't hesitate. Do you understand? Yes. I'm coming, Maya. Just hold on. I'll be there in 15 minutes. The door splintered. Marcus's fist came through the wood, reaching for the lock. Maya raised the gun with both hands, Sophia screaming on the bed beside unconscious Isabella. Get away from the door, she screamed. I have a gun. Marcus laughed on the other side. You won't shoot me. You don't have the guts. Try me. The door burst open. Marcus stood in the doorway, his eyes wild, blood on his fist from breaking through the wood. Maya pulled the trigger. The gun kicked back so hard it nearly flew out of her hands. The bullet went wide, hitting the wall a foot from Marcus's head. He flinched, but didn't stop. Missed, he said, walking toward her. Now give me the gun before you hurt yourself. Maya fired again. This time the bullet grazed his arm. He grunted in pain but kept coming. That's 2, he said. How many bullets you got left? Maya didn't know. She had never held a gun before tonight. She didn't know how many shots were in it. Marcus lunged at her. She fired a third time. This bullet hit him in the shoulder. He spun around from the impact and crashed into the dresser. But he didn't go down. You shot me, he said, almost surprised. You actually shot me. He looked at the blood spreading across his shirt. Then he looked at Maya with pure murder in his eyes. Now I'm going to make it hurt. He charged at her. Maya fired again and again. Click, click, click. Empty. The gun was empty. Marcus slammed into her and they both went down. The gun flew from her hand. She hit the floor hard. The breath knocked out of her lungs. Marcus was on top of her, his hands around her throat again. Blood from his shoulder dripped onto her face. Should have aimed better, he growled. Now you're going to watch me kill those babies before I kill you. No. Maya tried to scream but couldn't. His hands were too tight. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She was going to die. And then she heard it. Footsteps thundering up the stairs. Multiple people running. A voice she recognized. Maya. Dominic burst through the bedroom door like a force of nature. He took one look at Marcus choking Maya and crossed the room in 3 strides. He grabbed Marcus by the back of his shirt and threw him off her like he weighed nothing. Marcus hit the wall and crumpled to the floor. Dominic didn't stop. He grabbed Marcus by the throat and slammed him against the wall, lifting him off his feet. You touched her, Dominic said. His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. You touched my daughters. You came into my home. Marcus clawed at Dominic's hands, gasping for air. She's my wife. Mine. She's not yours anymore. Dominic squeezed harder. She never was. You don't own people. You don't break them and call it love. Marcus's face was turning purple. His eyes were bulging. Dominic. Maya's voice was hoarse. She was cradling Isabella in her arms. The baby was still unconscious. Dominic, stop. Isabella needs help. We need to call an ambulance. Dominic hesitated. His hands were still around Marcus's throat. Please, Maya begged. Don't become a murderer because of him. He's not worth it. Isabella needs you. I need you. For a long moment, Dominic didn't move. Then he released Marcus, letting him drop to the floor in a gasping heap. Anthony, Dominic called. Get this piece of garbage out of my sight. Lock him up until the police arrive. Anthony appeared in the doorway with 2 other men. They grabbed Marcus and dragged him away. Dominic turned to Maya and his whole demeanor changed. The cold rage disappeared. In its place was fear and tenderness and love. Let me see her, he said, kneeling beside Maya. He looked at Isabella's pale face at the blood on her head. Oh God, baby girl. She's breathing, Maya said through her tears. But she won't wake up. She hit her head when she fell. It's my fault. I couldn't hold on to her. It's not your fault. Dominic pulled out his phone. I need an ambulance at the Romano estate. Immediately. A baby is unconscious with a head injury. He hung up and gathered Maya and both babies in his arms. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I should have been here. I should have protected you. You came, Maya sobbed. You came back. I'll always come back, no matter what. I'll always come for you. They sat huddled together on the bedroom floor, surrounded by broken furniture and blood and chaos, waiting for the ambulance that would tell them whether Isabella would survive. And in a closet 2 floors down, where she had been hiding since Marcus broke in, Veronica Ashford was trembling with fear. Her plan had failed. Marcus was caught, and when he talked, when he told them who had helped him, everything she had done would be exposed. She had to run. She crept out of the closet and headed for the back stairs. If she could get to her car before anyone noticed, she was gone. Going somewhere, Dr. Ashford? Harold was standing at the bottom of the stairs. There was a bruise on his forehead and dried blood on his collar, but his eyes were sharp and alert. I was just leaving, Veronica said, trying to keep her voice steady. The situation seems to be under control. I don't think so. Harold held up his phone. I've been recording everything, Dr. Ashford. I heard you on the phone earlier. I heard you let Marcus Thompson into this house. I heard you conspire to hurt that poor girl. Veronica's face went white. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've worked in this house for 25 years. I know every hiding spot, every echo, every way to listen without being seen. Harold's voice hardened. You tried to destroy an innocent woman because you were jealous. You put those babies in danger. Mrs. Romano would be disgusted by what you've done. Don't you dare speak to me about Serena. Why not? You killed her, didn't you? Veronica froze. What did you say? I've suspected for months. The way she weakened during her pregnancy, the way her symptoms didn't match any normal complication. I started doing research. Harold took a step closer. And tonight, when I heard you on the phone with Marcus, I heard something else. Something you probably didn't even realize you said. Veronica's hands were shaking. You're lying. You said, and I quote, I've waited 5 years for Dominic to notice me. I got rid of Serena for nothing if I lose him now. Harold's eyes were cold. You poisoned her, didn't you? You poisoned Mrs. Romano and killed her. Veronica's mask finally cracked. She had everything, she screamed. She had him. She had his love, his devotion, his children. I deserved that. I deserved him, not her, not that black maid from the ghetto. Me. She lunged at Harold, her hands reaching for his phone. But Harold was faster than he looked. He sidestepped her and pushed a button on his phone. Got it all, he said quietly. Every word. Veronica collapsed to her knees as the sound of sirens filled the air. It was over. Everything she had worked for, everything she had killed for, it was all over. And upstairs in Dominic's bedroom, baby Isabella finally opened her eyes. Isabella opened her eyes and immediately started crying. It was the most beautiful sound Maya had ever heard. She's awake, Maya sobbed, clutching the baby to her chest. Dominic, she's awake. Dominic dropped to his knees beside them. His hands were shaking as he touched his daughter's face. Isabella, baby girl, can you hear me? Isabella's cries grew louder. She squirmed in Maya's arms, reaching for her father. Her eyes were unfocused, but open, alive. The ambulance is here, Anthony called from the doorway. The next hour was chaos. Paramedics rushed Isabella to the hospital. Dominic rode in the ambulance with her while Maya stayed behind with Sophia. Police swarmed the mansion. They took Marcus away in handcuffs, his shoulder still bleeding from Maya's bullets. They arrested Veronica in the hallway, her mascara streaming down her face as she screamed about how unfair everything was. Harold gave his recording to the detectives. Every word Veronica had said, every confession, every piece of evidence that proved she had not only orchestrated tonight's attack, but had also murdered Serena Romano. By midnight, the mansion was quiet again. Maya sat in the nursery with Sophia sleeping in her arms. She couldn't stop shaking. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's face. She felt his hands around her throat. She heard Isabella's body hitting the floor. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. Isabella is okay. Minor concussion. Doctors want to keep her overnight for observation. I'm staying with her. Are you all right? Maya typed back with trembling fingers. I'm okay. Sophia is sleeping. Harold is with me. I'm so sorry, Maya. This never should have happened. It's not your fault. It is. I trusted Veronica. I let her into our lives. I should have seen what she really was. Maya didn't know how to respond to that. She just stared at the phone until another message came through. I love you. I should have told you before. I love you, and I'm not going to let anything like this happen again. Tears rolled down Maya's cheeks. She typed back the only thing she could think of. I love you too. 3 weeks later, the world looked completely different. Marcus Thompson was in jail awaiting trial. The charges against him included breaking and entering assault with intent to kill, child endangerment, and a dozen other crimes that would keep him locked up for the rest of his life. The $50,000 debt he had used to terrorize Maya was erased. Frank Castellano's organization wanted nothing to do with the man who had brought this much attention to their operations. Veronica Ashford's arrest made headlines across the country. Doctor accused of poisoning Mafia boss's wife, attacking baby. The trial was set for 6 months from now, but everyone knew how it would end. Harold's recording was devastating. Veronica's confession was crystal clear. She would spend decades in prison for what she had done. Isabella recovered fully. The doctor said she was incredibly lucky. A few inches to the left and the fall could have caused permanent damage. But babies were resilient, they said. More resilient than anyone expected. Maya wasn't sure she believed in luck anymore. She believed in something else, something she couldn't quite name. On a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after the attack, Dominic asked Maya to meet him in his study. She walked in expecting to discuss the baby's schedule or security arrangements. Instead, she found Dominic standing by the window, looking more nervous than she had ever seen him. "Close the door," he said. Maya closed it. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine, more than fine." He turned to face her. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about how close we came to losing everything." "Me too. And I've been thinking about us." He walked toward her slowly. "About what I said that night. About loving you." Maya's heart started pounding. "Dominic." "I meant every word. I love you, Maya. I've loved you since that first day when you held Isabella and she stopped crying. I've loved you through every moment we've spent together, and I don't want to waste any more time pretending otherwise." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya stopped breathing. "I know this is fast," Dominic said. "I know we've only known each other for 2 months. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is crazy." He opened the box to reveal a diamond ring that sparkled like captured starlight. "But I also know that life is short. I know that the people we love can be taken from us in an instant. And I don't want to spend another day without you knowing how much you mean to me." He got down on one knee. "Maya Jenkins, will you marry me?" Maya's tears were falling so fast she could barely see. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was trembling. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to girls from the South Side. Girls who had been beaten and broken and told they were worthless. Girls who had lost everything and been forced to start over from nothing. But it was real. Dominic was kneeling in front of her with a ring in his hand and love in his eyes. "Yes," she whispered. Dominic looked up sharply. "What?" "Yes." Maya laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Dominic slid the ring onto her finger and swept her into his arms. He lifted her off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. When he finally set her down, he kissed her. Really kissed her for the first time. Not a gentle brush of lips or a tender press to her forehead. A real kiss that told her everything words couldn't express. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making you happy," he said against her lips. "I promise you that." "You already make me happy," Maya whispered back. "You and the girls. You're everything I ever wanted." They stood there holding each other for a long time, neither one wanting to let go. Outside the study door, Harold was walking past with his notebook in hand. He heard the laughter. He saw the way they were holding each other through the crack in the door. He smiled and wrote in his notebook, "Mr. Romano proposed to Maya today. She said yes. After everything this family has been through, we finally have something to celebrate." The wedding was set for 3 months later. Maya wanted something small, intimate, just family and close friends. But word got out that Dominic Romano was getting married, and suddenly everyone wanted to be invited. Maya didn't care about the guest list or the flowers or the food. She only cared about one thing. "I want the girls to be part of the ceremony," she told Dominic. "I'm not just marrying you. I'm becoming their mother. I want that to be official." Dominic's eyes softened. "You've been their mother since the day you walked into this house." "I know. But I want them to know it too. When they're older. I want them to be able to look at pictures from our wedding and see themselves there. I want them to know they were always part of this family." So that's what they did. On the day of the wedding, Isabella and Sophia wore matching white dresses with pink ribbons. They were 8 months old now, crawling and babbling and lighting up every room they entered. Maya's Aunt Beatrice flew in from Mississippi. She was the only family Maya had left. Her mother had died when she was 12. Her father had left before she was born. She had spent most of her childhood bouncing between foster homes and relatives who didn't want her. But Aunt Beatrice had always been there. Through the marriage to Marcus. Through the loss of Isaiah. Through all the darkness that had threatened to swallow Maya whole. "I can't believe this is happening," Beatrice said, helping Maya with her dress. "My little Maya marrying a man like that." "A man like what?" "A man who looks at you like you're the only woman in the world. A man who treats you like you deserve to be treated." Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. "I prayed for this, you know. Every night after you left Marcus. I prayed that God would send you someone good, someone who would heal all those wounds." Maya hugged her aunt tightly. "He did, Aunt Beatrice. He really did." The ceremony was held in the garden of the Romano mansion, the same garden where Maya had once pushed a cleaning cart, never imagining that one day she would walk down an aisle covered in rose petals. Harold stood at the front with the babies in a double stroller. He had insisted on being part of the wedding party. After everything he had done, after the way he had protected Maya and helped expose Veronica, no one could deny him that honor. When Maya appeared at the end of the aisle, Dominic's breath caught in his throat. She was wearing a simple white dress, nothing fancy, nothing expensive, but she was glowing, radiant, more beautiful than anyone he had ever seen. "Who gives this woman to be married?" the officiant asked. Aunt Beatrice stepped forward with tears streaming down her face. "I do, with all my heart." Maya walked to Dominic and took his hands. They were both trembling. "I never thought I'd find love again," Dominic said when it came time for his vows. "After Serena died, I thought that part of my life was over. I thought I would spend the rest of my days just trying to survive. But then you came along. You walked into my house with a cleaning cart and a broken heart, and you changed everything." He squeezed her hands tighter. "You gave my daughters peace. You gave me hope. You showed me that it's possible to love again after loss, to trust again after betrayal, to believe in happiness even when the world has given you every reason not to." His voice cracked. "I vow to protect you for the rest of my life, to cherish you, to stand by you through whatever comes. I vow to be the husband you deserve and the father our daughters need. I love you, Maya Jenkins, and I will spend every day proving that you made the right choice in loving me back." Maya was crying so hard she could barely speak when it was her turn. "I came to this house with nothing," she said. "No money, no family, no hope. I had lost everything. My baby, my marriage, my belief that good things could happen to people like me." She took a shaky breath. "But then I met Isabella and Sophia. And they taught me that love doesn't have to come from blood. It comes from choice, from showing up every day, from holding someone when they cry and singing them to sleep and promising that you'll never leave." She looked at the babies in the stroller. Isabella was chewing on her fist. Sophia was trying to grab Harold's tie. "I didn't give birth to those girls, but they're my daughters. In every way that matters, they're mine, and you, Dominic." She turned back to him. "You're my home. You're my safe place. You're the answer to every prayer I was too scared to pray." She smiled through her tears. "I vow to love you, to trust you, to build a life with you that our children can be proud of. I vow to be your partner, your best friend, your wife. And I vow to spend every day being grateful that God brought me to your doorstep when I needed saving." The officiant smiled. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Dominic pulled Maya into his arms and kissed her, while the guests cheered and the babies babbled, and somewhere in the distance, church bells began to ring. When they finally pulled apart, Maya whispered in his ear, "I have something to tell you. Right now, it can't wait." She took his hand and pressed it against her stomach. "I'm pregnant." Dominic froze. His eyes went wide. For a moment he couldn't speak. "Are you serious?" "I found out yesterday. I wanted to wait for the right moment to tell you." She laughed nervously. "Is this the right moment?" Dominic swept her up in his arms again, spinning her around while she shrieked with laughter. "We're having a baby!" he shouted to the crowd. "We're having a baby!" The guests erupted in cheers. Harold dropped his notebook in shock. Aunt Beatrice burst into fresh tears. Isabella and Sophia started clapping their hands, not understanding why, but knowing that something wonderful was happening. Later that night, after the reception was over and the guests had gone home, Maya and Dominic sat in the nursery watching their daughters sleep. "I keep waiting for something bad to happen," Maya admitted quietly. "I keep waiting for this to all fall apart. It won't." "How can you be so sure?" Dominic took her hand and pressed it to his heart. "Because we've already survived the worst. Marcus is gone. Veronica is gone. Everyone who tried to hurt us is gone. And we're still here, still standing, still together." He kissed her forehead. "The hard part is over, Maya. Everything from now on is just living. Just loving each other and raising our children and being happy." Maya looked at Isabella sleeping peacefully in her crib. At Sophia curled up with her thumb in her mouth. At the man sitting beside her who had gone from being the most feared person in Chicago to being the center of her world. "I still can't believe this is my life," she whispered. "Believe it," Dominic said. "Because I'm never letting you go." They sat together in the quiet nursery until the sun came up. A new day, a new beginning, a new chapter in a story that had started with so much pain and was ending with so much love. But not quite ending, because 4 months later, in the same hospital where Isabella had been treated after her fall, Maya gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Isaiah. And when Maya held him for the first time, when she looked into his eyes and felt his tiny fingers wrap around hers, she finally understood. All the pain, all the loss, all the suffering she had endured. It had all led her here. To this moment, to this child, to this family. She had lost her first Isaiah in violence and darkness, but she had found her second Isaiah in love and light, and this time, nothing would ever take him away. Harold stood in the corner of the hospital room with his notebook documenting everything as he always did. May 15th, he wrote. Isaiah Dominic Romano was born at 3:47 a.m. Weight 7 pounds 4 ounces. Length 20 inches. Mother and baby are healthy. He paused and added one more line. The Romano family is finally complete. 2 years passed like a dream Maya never wanted to wake from. Isaiah took his first steps on his first birthday, wobbling across the nursery floor toward Isabella, who clapped her hands and cheered him on. Sophia grabbed his chubby fingers when he fell and helped him stand back up. The 3 children had become inseparable, bound together not by blood, but by something stronger. Love. Maya stood in the doorway, watching them play, her hand resting on her belly where another miracle was growing. 4 months along now. Another boy, the doctors said. She and Dominic had already picked a name. Michael, after the brother Isaiah would have had in another life. You're crying again, Dominic said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Happy tears. You've been having a lot of those lately. I have a lot to be happy about. He kissed her neck and rested his chin on her shoulder, watching their children together. Isabella was 2.5 now, bossy and brilliant, already speaking in full sentences. Sophia was gentler, quieter, always watching and thinking. And Isaiah was pure joy, laughing at everything, afraid of nothing. I never thought I could have this, Maya whispered. A family, children, a husband who actually loves me. You deserve all of it, every single bit. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking Marcus is going to find me, that all of this is going to disappear. Dominic turned her to face him. His eyes were serious. Marcus Thompson died in prison 6 months ago, stabbed by another inmate over a card game. He can never hurt you again. Maya nodded. She knew that. She had read the news report herself, but trauma didn't care about facts. Trauma lived in your bones and whispered lies in the dark. And Veronica is serving 25 years, Dominic continued. She'll be an old woman before she ever sees the outside of a prison. She can't touch us. I know. So what are you really afraid of? Maya looked at her children, at these 3 perfect little humans who had become her whole world. I'm afraid that I don't deserve this, that I'm going to mess it up somehow, that I'm going to fail them the way everyone in my life failed me. Dominic cupped her face in his hands. Listen to me. You are the best mother those children could ever have. You love them with everything you are. You protect them, you teach them, you show them every single day what it means to be kind and strong and brave. His voice cracked. Serena would have loved you, Maya. She would have been so grateful that her daughters found you. Maya broke down then. All the fear and insecurity she had been carrying poured out in waves of tears. I wish I could have known her, she sobbed. I wish I could have thanked her for bringing Isabella and Sophia into the world. She knows. Wherever she is, she knows. They held each other while their children played 2 broken people who had somehow found wholeness in each other's arms. That night, after the children were asleep, Maya did something she had been putting off for months. She sat down at her desk and started writing. Not a letter, not a diary entry. A book, the story of her life, the abuse, the loss, the darkness that had nearly swallowed her whole, and the light that had finally broken through. She wrote about Marcus, about the first time he hit her, about the night she lost Isaiah, about the years of running and hiding and being afraid. She wrote about Dominic, about walking into the Romano mansion with nothing but a cleaning cart and a broken heart, about holding Isabella for the first time and feeling something inside her shift. She wrote about Veronica, about jealousy so poisonous it could kill, about the night Marcus broke in and almost took everything from her. And she wrote about healing, about learning to trust again, about opening her heart to love even when every instinct screamed at her to protect herself. She wrote until her hand cramped and her eyes burned and the sun started coming up outside her window. When Dominic found her the next morning, she had filled an entire notebook. What's all this? My story. Maya looked up at him with exhausted eyes. I want to share it. With other women who are going through what I went through. I want them to know that there's hope on the other side of the darkness. Dominic picked up the notebook and started reading. His face changed as he turned the pages. Pain, anger, pride, love. This is incredible, he said finally. This is going to help so many people. You think so? I know so. He knelt beside her chair. You're not just a survivor, Maya. You're a voice for everyone who doesn't know how to speak up. Everyone who's trapped in a situation like you were. I want to do more than write a book, Maya said. I want to start a foundation for victims of domestic abuse, shelters, counseling, legal aid, everything I wished I had when I was trying to escape Marcus. Dominic didn't hesitate. Whatever you need, whatever it costs, I'll make it happen. This isn't about your money, Dominic. I need to do this myself. I need to build something that's mine. He smiled proudly. Then I'll support you however you'll let me. But this will be yours, Maya. Your legacy. Your gift to the world. 6 months later, the Maya Romano Foundation opened its doors. The first shelter housed 20 women and their children. Within a year, there were 5 shelters across Chicago. Within 2 years, the foundation had expanded to 10 cities. Maya became a voice. She spoke at conferences. She testified before Congress. She appeared on television telling her story over and over again, never flinching from the painful parts. Every time she spoke, letters poured in from women who said she had given them the courage to leave, to fight back, to believe that they deserved better. Harold kept a file of those letters, thousands of them. He showed them to Maya whenever she doubted herself. Look at what you've done, he would say. Look at how many lives you've changed. Maya would read the letters and cry. Happy tears, always happy tears. But her greatest joy wasn't the foundation, or the book, or the speeches. It was her family. Michael was born on a sunny Tuesday in March. He came into the world screaming angry at being disturbed, and Maya laughed through her tears because she knew exactly what kind of child he would be. Strong, fierce, a fighter, just like his mother. Isabella and Sophia treated both boys like precious treasures. They helped feed them and change them and sang them to sleep at night. The 4 children became a unit, always together, always looking out for each other. Harold documented everything in his notebooks. He had filled dozens of them now. The history of the Romano family written in his careful handwriting. These children are going to change the world, he told Maya one afternoon. I can feel it. What makes you say that? Because of how they were raised, with love instead of fear, with hope instead of despair. He smiled. You and Mr. Romano have broken the cycle. Whatever darkness came before, it ends here, with them. Maya looked at her children playing in the garden. Isabella was teaching Isaiah to catch a ball. Sophia was reading a picture book to Michael, even though he was too young to understand. I hope you're right, she said. I'm always right. I've been watching this family for 30 years. I know things. Maya laughed and hugged the old butler, who had become like a grandfather to her children. Thank you, Harold, for everything you've done. I haven't done anything except write things down. You saved my life. That recording you made of Veronica. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't been paying attention, she shook her head. I would have lost everything. No. Harold's voice was firm. You would have survived. Because that's what you do, Mrs. Romano. You survive, and then you help others do the same. On the 5th anniversary of the night Marcus broke into the mansion, Maya did something unexpected. She visited his grave. Dominic didn't understand at first. Why would you want to go there? Why would you give him even a moment of your time? I need to let go, Maya explained. I need to say goodbye to all of it. The fear, the anger, the hate. I've been carrying it for so long and I'm tired. I'll come with you. No, I need to do this alone. She drove to the cemetery on a gray afternoon. The grave was in a forgotten corner, unmarked, except for a small stone with his name and dates. No flowers, no visitors, no one who cared that he was gone. Maya stood there for a long time, not speaking. Finally, she took a breath. I forgive you. The words surprised her as much as they would have surprised anyone listening. I don't forgive what you did. I don't excuse it. I don't pretend it was okay. Her voice was steady, strong. But I forgive you because holding on to hate was killing me. Because you don't deserve to take up any more space in my heart. She wiped a tear from her cheek. I have a beautiful life now. A husband who loves me. 4 children who think I hung the moon. A purpose. A future. She looked down at the grave. You tried to destroy me. You tried to break me so badly that I would never recover. But you failed, Marcus. You failed because I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for. She turned to leave, then stopped. And wherever you are now, I hope you found peace. I hope you found whatever it was you were looking for when you were hurting me. Because I've found what I was looking for. And it's more beautiful than anything I ever imagined. She walked away without looking back. When she got home, Dominic was waiting on the front steps with Isabella in his lap and Isaiah at his feet. Sophia and Michael were inside with Harold making cookies. How do you feel? Dominic asked. Free. Maya smiled. I feel free. That night they had dinner as a family. All 6 of them crowded around the table, talking over each other, laughing at nothing, making memories that would last a lifetime. After the children were in bed, Dominic poured 2 glasses of wine and led Maya out to the garden. The same garden where they had gotten married. The same garden where their children played every day. I have something for you, he said. He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a charm bracelet with 6 tiny figures hanging from it. A man, a woman, 2 girls, 2 boys. Our family, Dominic said. Complete. Maya's eyes filled with tears again. She had cried more happy tears in the past 5 years than she had cried sad tears in her entire life before. It's perfect. You're perfect. Dominic took her hands. I know I don't say it enough. I know I get caught up in work and the kids and everything else. But I need you to know that you are the best thing that ever happened to me. You saved my daughters. You saved me. You turned this house from a tomb into a home. I didn't do it alone. No, but you started it. You walked through that gate 5 years ago with nothing but courage and a broken heart, and you changed everything. He kissed her softly. I love you, Maya Romano. More than I knew it was possible to love anyone. I love you too. More than words can say. They stood together in the garden as the stars came out overhead. 2 people who had found each other in the darkness and built a light so bright it could never be extinguished. Upstairs, Harold was doing his final rounds of the night. He peeked into each child's room, making sure they were sleeping peacefully. Isabella sprawled across her bed like she owned the world. Sophia curled up with a book on her pillow. Isaiah hugging the stuffed elephant that played lullabies. Michael so small and perfect in his crib. Harold wrote in his notebook one last time. The Romano family, once broken, now whole, built not on blood but on choice, on love, on the belief that people can change and wounds can heal and happy endings are possible for those brave enough to fight for them. He closed the notebook and smiled. This is a family worth protecting. He whispered to no one in particular. This is a family that will last. And downstairs, Maya and Dominic walked back into their home hand in hand, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Because they had already survived the worst. Because they had already found each other. Because they knew with absolute certainty that nothing could break them now. The poor black maid from the south side of Chicago had become the queen of a kingdom she never dreamed existed. And the Mafia boss who thought he would never love again had found a woman worth more than all the power and money in the world. Their children would grow up knowing that family isn't about where you come from. It's about where you choose to go. Their children would grow up knowing that love can heal any wound if you're brave enough to let it. Their children would grow up knowing that no matter how dark the night gets, morning always comes. And when they were old enough to ask how their parents met, Maya would smile and start with the beginning. I walked into a mansion full of crying babies and armed guards. I had $17 to my name and a monster chasing me. And then something miraculous happened. "What happened, Mama?" they would ask. "I found you. I found your father. I found home." The end of one story, the beginning of 1,000 more. Because this was never really about a maid and a mafia boss. This was about believing that broken things can be made whole. This was about learning that love is stronger than fear. This was about proving that no matter what life throws at you, you can rise again. Maya Jenkins Romano was living proof of that truth. And her story would echo through generations, a testament to the power of hope, the strength of survival, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Some people are born into fairy tales. Maya built hers from the ashes of everything she lost. And that made it more beautiful than any fairy tale could ever be.